Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome Kacem El Ghazzali to our Racjonalista.tv. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kaja.
Kacem is a very known atheist who was born in Morocco. Where exactly have you been born?
I was born in the door of the Atlas Mountains. That's a small village in the middle of Morocco.
And how did you become an atheist, and how was it?
I never believed in God. I had never such a strong belief since my young childhood. But as you know, such questions they need an answer which through time and development. So first of all, I was adopting the fact that there might be a supernatural creator by the way that he was described to us as children. And what also maybe helped me is that whenever as a child I asked about God, and the answer was all the time oppressing me, that I don't have to ask further questions, how and what, etc. And I thought the idea that there is no easy answer, let's say, that we could somehow ask to a child about a question of the God, make me think probably there is something wrong there. Otherwise they won't be angry at me when I ask what is God and how is he and how does he watch us all the time, how can he do that. So there was very simple questions coming from a troubled child who hears all the time about religion and gods and that they should be a good person, otherwise they will burn in hell for lifetime. So until the moment that I was the age of 14 or 15, and then I was for 2 years in a Quranic school. It was an internat, like we lived there, and every day a strict program, and I was like memorizing by heart every day kind of 2 pages of the Quran. So during those 2 years I was almost done with the whole book. This period also was very influential. It helped me a lot to understand religion rather than just be heard of it. Lots of people, the moment they study the religion in a way that they got in touch with it rather just being told about it, the moment they start also to have more serious questions. And then came, of course, the time of the internet, and then I started to read more about the question of existence, God, etc., to the level that I said, I think that I am an atheist. And it took a time that I understood. It's actually like your doubt starts very small, but it doesn't stop. First you doubt on something on the part, and later your doubt takes over the whole. So that's, if I would like, maybe this would be a summary of my journey into atheism.
I think it's actually very similar to mine. The only difference being that I was not forced to memorize the Bible, for which I'm very thankful because it's so horrible. Do you still remember the Quran?
To be honest, not very much. I could still, for example, it was good that I learned the Quran, even if I was forced to. In several levels. Linguistically, it helped me so much because my Arabic language became very strong. We know that the Quran influenced also the grammar, the Arabic grammar. And another thing also in my debates with the Muslims. So it's all the time good that I know more than they do. And I could all the time bring the exact reference when we are talking about, especially about the Quran. It was, of course, not a good thing to do to a child. Of course, that I wouldn't support that, but probably I was lucky. So there was certain coincidence that made this thing in favor of to me rather than destroying me or being against me. So that's
well, that's good. And actually it's quite a commonly well-known fact that many of the atheists know much more about religions than the religious people. And unfortunately, do you think the rational arguments and quotations from the holy books can really convince the religious people? What is your experience when you talk to Muslims?
There is no instant convincing, because this is we expect usually when we debate the believers that probably they would accept our arguments, but they can't and they won't. Why? Because first of all, it doesn't matter how logical the argument is, the person needs time to think and to see it from different angles. So they go to the defense mood, or they just don't like to talk about the topic anymore, or they tell you are insulting me, or you show some respect. But why this is important and good, that's after that you started the conversation and that you don't expect an instant effect on them, you have done something. You have at least pushed them to question things, to see them differently. I tell you that I receive emails from people that they used to insult me or threaten me years ago. Now they are atheists. They said to me, the testimonies, that we started to ask questions, and when we are not in front of you or we are not confronted with your words, then we are calm, and then we start to just kind of eternal discussion, as a monologue with the self, and that's why I believe lots of people say no, it's useless, it's no sense to have debates with the believers, because anyway they don't take logic seriously. They don't accept that there is logical thinking or critical thinking, and that's why they are believers. But no, I think the person there are people who find debating fun thing to do. I don't think we see that as a job, or we are missionaries. We are just people. We like to drink and talk and debate other ideas, and I think that's very important. And that's what I said at the beginning. We don't expect an instant because we actually believe if the argument is logical, then automatically the other person has to accept it, otherwise he's stupid. But it may just take him time.
Well, that's a very good example how critical thinking is enough if you just plant a seed, right? And after time it can bring fruit. So it's true that many people can change over time, and it's worth debating. So how was it when you realized finally as a teenager that you really are an atheist? Did you say it publicly?
I was first of all alienated, and I didn't know where do I stand and what am I actually in this context, social, religious context where I am living, starting by the family, society and school. And to be honest, I thought at the beginning that I might be wrong, and I should maybe learn more and ask more questions. So I was all the time very skeptical, even at my first few years of atheism. And this skepticism is still alive. I mean, I'm lucky enough. I mean, I don't proclaim that I have suddenly found the truth and I am the one who represents. No, I still have, there are legitimate questions. Of course, I don't believe anymore in be it an Abrahamic God or a personalized power or spirituality or so. But I still have hope, and I don't want to say believe, I have hope that science would provide us with lots of answers to the questions we have. But back to your question, I mean, it's being a minority in a majority society. You are all the time asking yourself, am I sick? Am I wrong? Because we as individuals will like to be in collective, in communities. They give us self-affirmation, acceptance, and we feel good. And we say, okay, if I'm wrong, then we are all wrong. And if we succeed, we celebrate together. So it's not easy, but then you start as an individual atheist. You are running away from a community, but suddenly you start to search for a new community. You start to search for other people who think like you. And in my generation, it was easy for us because we got the internet. So just search online, then you find another lonely soul somewhere else. Also, he's starting a group on Facebook or Yahoo groups back in 2006, 2007, and then you contact him like if you have found gold or a big treasure, and then and you don't know the person, you don't know his interests, you don't know is he nice or bad. You just the fact that he's an atheist, and it gives you this, as I said, the search for the community, for being together. And it was very good. I mean, we had at least we could talk to each other, we could freely, no censorship. And then with time you find out we disagree also on other things, and then atheism is not actually anymore that thing that you thought will connect you with others or bring people together. So that's why we start to talk about humanism, we start to talk about human rights. So we wanted more than just being connected in the classical way that we run away from, which is a faith or a belief or a non-belief.
I'm amazed because I basically hear my own story in your words. And also I know very well what you mean when you speak about the influence of internet, because basically in Poland, it was in the 90s, along with the internet, when suddenly all the atheists, all the free thinkers, they found themselves online. And they started chatting, and it was a revolution. That's when our association was founded. Maybe not in the 90s, at the beginning of the 21st century, but I mean these years, the first years of internet and what happened after, that was a complete revolution. And I think without that tool, we might still be hiding, all of us.
Indeed. The society, what the internet did in actually, like in the Muslim world, it helped in creating a new debate and also bringing political balances into the making the scene more clear and much visible, like groups or people that the society never recognized them or thought of that they might exist. Suddenly they are visible. Suddenly they are people hear them. So it was like the first attempt in kind of a social normalization with certain phenomena that are considered to be odd or considered to be actually non-existent, like they don't exist. So that's people started to hear for the first time, oh, there are atheists. Then they start with their stereotyping them and thinking that they are just satanics or they are just the argument, maybe they are agents for the West or for the Zionists or for. And but with the time, I think now it's changing because people started not to buy this cheap propaganda, and they started to know from those debates online that non-believers are actually not strange, not odd. They are normal people, but they just what's different here. They see the existence differently, and they ask the same questions as we do, but they have other answers. And at the end is a question of salvation. I mean, if you choose that, you see that your salvation is in religion and the definition it provides you with, then it's okay. But for me, my salvation, it might be not necessary religion, maybe partly music, art, philosophy, and of course science. And then it provides me also with this kind of happiness and meaning in life. So with this debate, people they started also to find out that might be also interesting. Why not? This is also kind of a philosophy of life, or can be also influence your lifestyle, can make you happier and love yourself. And so this is
Which word do you use in Arabic for atheism, or atheism and atheists? Is there an actual word? Is it a word that is recognized? I mean, that people would understand in all countries, or?
The atheist in Arabic is mulhid, huh? And the mulhid word is actually was meant to be an insult. The mulhid is someone who doesn't want to believe, not because he has an argument not to believe, but just he doesn't want to believe it. Doesn't matter. It's actually should be said the other way to the believers, because they are the ones who believe in something, doesn't matter what, and they are not ready to change that or to accept other ideas. So that's why. But with time, it became that's how when we say mulhid, we think automatically as here. I mean, when you say athei or atheist or atheo, the non-belief or the non-existence of a God. And to be honest with you, the same debate you have here about atheism, agnosticism, deism is also taking place in the Arab world and in the Muslim world. I mean, since I moved to Switzerland, I have seen that those philosophical debates about the existence of God are similar to ours. There are other differences. Maybe I cannot tell about Poland, but in Switzerland I found that atheism is kind of a fashionable thing, and it's something that you. Let me phrase it another way, starting by Morocco, because for us atheism is a political action. It's a political statement. Because when I refuse God, I'm refusing an authority which is very present in the law, the constitution, which even the ruler or the king has legitimized his ruling. So automatically, by refusing the idea of God, I'm refusing a set of rules and norms and social laws. And in this way, it became kind of a revolution. Just the fact that you are an atheist and a resistance. When in countries like Switzerland or where the question of atheism is not a taboo and it's not something illegal, then here, that's what I said, being an atheist is more for many kind of fashionable. So they would meet and talk more about the evolution. I'm absolutely for that. I don't criticize. I'm just saying, describing the scene. Talk about the science, which is very important. But what I miss here is I don't like to moralize things, but if there might be such thing, kind of a moral duty, I think that they are not paying much attention to the universal scene of other atheists who are in other countries, who cannot express themselves freely, who are not even recognized to exist, or like we have 13 countries or 12 where the apostasy and blasphemy are punishable by death penalty, and all of those countries are Muslim countries. So I wonder, why wouldn't those people who are having those freedoms in the West, and why don't they speak about the Muslim world? Why don't they at least try to support those unfortunate minorities? And whenever I try to bring this question to discussion, I mean, I don't receive any excitement from the people. So, or it doesn't mean that they disagree with me or they think that's not something or there's something wrong. But still, there is something that I can't understand yet.
Well, if I may, because I think this is a definitely legitimate question, a very important one, and it has shocked me too, to be honest, that people are okay with the fact that the basic human rights are violated in so many countries. I mean, theoretically, Europe fights for the human rights. So there are all those court cases, there are those appeals, etc., etc. But it's mainly about, for example, death penalty that is being used in various countries in general. They specifically somehow try to omit the topic that in those Islamic countries you do have death penalty for apostasy. This is like something they don't want to touch. It's very, very clear that it's a kind of very inconvenient topic, I guess. And in my opinion, it comes from the fact that so many Western countries had colonized the Arabic world before, and now they feel guilty, and they feel that they are in a position that they shouldn't anymore judge or exactly. Do you agree?
I definitely agree, actually, and now I contradict myself because I try to be a little bit political correct when I said I don't understand that, so I wanted to see also your reaction, what you would say. But thank you for going further in the analyze why Western liberals or secular or atheists or even human rights activists they don't have the courage to tackle issues which they feel and they know that they are wrong and that they must be changed. The thing is, it has to do, of course, with the colonialist past of Europe or the West, and it has also to do with the fact that many Western liberals or leftists are not let's say the culture or the instrument now of cultural relativism, and the fact that who are we to judge the others and who are we to tell someone what to do or not what to do, and their analysis that cultures need the time to evolve and develop, and we should give them a chance, and the change should not be forced from abroad, and maybe if we start to talk about those issues, then there will be a higher resistance from the people to accept them because they would see us just as outsiders and foreign powers again trying to tell them what to do or not. But this narrative, unfortunately, is not completely true, because the situation, an observer of the situation in the Muslim world sees that there are nowadays not only the Islam, there are several Islams, there are several, let's say, interpretations of the Islam. There are secular Muslims, liberal Muslims, even if they are still kind of intellectual or let's say limited in their between the walls of certain forums or universities. They are not really popular ideas among the majority of Muslims. But there are also, as we said, the other movements which is pushing forward for change and demanding for certain rights, and those talking about the atheists, secularists, and in effect, you cannot say that there is a change is taking place, and then you have now just to decide: are you going to be in the right side of history or in the wrong side? Are you going to say we have to be aware of the fact that there is a change happening over there, and we should take our responsibility, at least if we cannot help directly the people there, at least tackle the problem with Islamism, which we already have here in Europe. That's also because, as I said yesterday, I think that the Islamists Europe has been for them, or the West in general, the freedom in the West has been the backyard of their operations on the Muslim world. Lots of Muslim Brotherhood activists and leaders, when they were persecuted by in Egypt or in Tunisia or in Morocco, they all came to Europe. And
really?
Yes, they come to Europe. You find them in France, in London, in especially like Tariq Ramadan, the grandson of the leader of or founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, who's now a professor in Oxford, and he's very active in France, and has his brother has also is an Islamist and has a Swiss nationality. And those people, they try to advertise themselves as kind of liberal Muslims, etc. But they really did a huge problem for integration in Europe, because the first generation of immigrants, Muslim immigrants, which came to Europe, we believed that they were liberals and they were okay and there was no problem with them. You hear this when you are in the Turkey or when you are in France. And these start to tell, but the second and the third generation, we don't know why are they so radical. Why are they get easily radicalized and join Islamist movements? If you follow the elections in the Turkey, the referendum, like the majority of those Turkish people living in Germany were in favor of an Islamist, and still they are born in Germany. So Tariq Ramadan and his let's say his movement, they started with the idea to convince Muslims in Europe that Islam is not only a religion, it's also a way of life. So they introduced this social Islamism. So that's why you started to see more Muslims wearing the hijab, when in fact in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, if you see pictures from universities in Egypt, in Iran, or you don't see those this social Islamism, at least women without the hijab. So they made the Muslims believe that Islam is a set of laws, which actually it's true, but at least this idea wasn't present to the Muslims. And then the other facts which also made many of those Muslims get radicalized or take certain views which are sympathy with the Islamic groups, is that the contradiction they went through in their life. So at the family level, they are Muslims, and their parents, the first generation, which as I said, we thought they were liberal and open, but they were really restrictive with their children. They were not, of course, part of the political Islam. They didn't go to preach Islam. They didn't want to change society. But their children, they didn't enjoy the values or the freedoms of the Western liberalism. And those same children, when they go outside to school, when they go to the job market, when they go into the normal life after the family, then they are confronted with another open society, open life, things that actually are different than at home. And then here comes the cultural and the identity crisis and the question, what are we? Are we French, Germans, British? Are we Moroccans, Algerians? Because also when they go to Morocco and Algeria, they are not integrated. I remember my cousins, they were born in France, but they could not talk with me about a lot of things because they don't know them, or culturally are also different for them. So they are also alienated when at home. And then here comes the discourse of the Islamism or the Islam. Then you are a Muslim, and that's your identity. And it's a very broad term that you could put anything in it, and it will just melt and be part of it. And that is the problem. I see that we started with the question about why the Europeans or the Western liberals don't or fear to criticize Islamism or show their solidarity with victims of Islamism in the Islamic world. And now we ended up at the end with analyzing and trying to understand why the second and third generation of Muslim immigrants also hold certain radical views and don't integrate in the.
But it is all connected.
Yeah, it is
so.
all connected somehow.
So because it is actually one huge issue. So in the sense that in Poland, to be honest, we have very few Muslim people, and that's probably also the reason why there are so many Poles who fear Muslims now in a little bit well, abstract way, let's say. So of course in a radical way also, because they have no idea what a Muslim is. So they listen to some populists and they think that these are the real children of the Satanas, and you know. But the thing is that I think knowledge about Islam is very scarce within the European society in general, that people were never really interested in getting to know those migrants that came from Arabic countries, to get to know their culture, etc. And then, as you said, even those first migrants were quite conservative, and that's how they raised their children. So we have these kind of two worlds in Europe, which are not integrated at all, because no one ever worked on a proper integration, which I believe is very, very wrong, and it's a little bit too late to try to do it now, right?
Too late. I mean, I'm someone who believes each country has the right to make its own immigration laws and regulates who comes in, who does. It's just those immigration laws. They should not be discriminative. They should not say we allow the Christians or those, or we don't allow those. It should be the same rules should be for everyone, regardless of their religion or whatever. But the question is, those who are in favor of open borders policy, and they are mostly from liberal or left parties, they are the first to be against any serious attempt of integration those people. So open the borders, or it's okay, fine, let the people get in, we have no problem. So I come with an integration program where I say I want to teach those people that they are very welcome and we don't discriminate against them because we are, let's say, secular society. But we want them to understand that they also should not discriminate others. They should respect their family members and respect others and live in this pluralistic society. Then you start to be accused of being Islamophobic and racist, and that you don't like the immigrants. There is a difference between that you don't like an immigrant and between that you are expecting from an immigrant that he would behave in a certain way. It's very legitimate and normal demand. And then just because we are not demanding him to live in a strange way, there is a social contract of the society, and with this social contract we do coexist. And in order to coexist with you as a newcomer to my society, to my home, in order to protect you, to save your rights, I have the duty to tell you what are the laws and what kind of a contract do we have. It's not like I'm trying to teach you I'm trying just to inform you. And I expect from you to accept that. So if we say, for example, we have in Germany and in Switzerland now the debate about swimming classes for children, female children. Lots of parents, they say, no, I don't want my child to join swimming classes with other boys, when the fact the girl is 7-8 years old. So the father thinks it's not allowed according to the religion because the woman should cover her body. Then you find people supporting that, and the people who are saying no, that's a child rights to have a normal education and join other, and you find the others that's not right. Allow them to do whatever they want. And then, well, not only that, because I think also this vision that you see a 7 or 8 years old child as a sexual question or let's say potential, then that's a pedophile. That's a pedophilia thought. You cannot say, because the child, even in Germany, I don't know in Polish, the German language, it's a neutrum. It's das Kind. In German language, they have the feminine, the masculine, and the neutrum article. So
we actually have the same in Polish as well, and same for the child. We also have the neutral.
Exactly. So it will not trigger the sexual desires of the teacher, because we know that he's not in a position, or he's not hopefully of course a pedophile, but still that child has the right to join. And this is just one of the many examples which you have in this process of integrating let's say Muslims or people with from other cultures, which they have certain views which are not compatible with democracy or with free human rights as we understand them universally. So what is racist here?
Well, what you're saying, well, is basically one of the things that I've been thinking about for quite a long time recently, because one of my main disappointments with Europe in general is exactly that fact that by this kind of policies, this kind of dealing with the migrants, we somehow betray all those which are actually liberal, which are atheists. And I cannot understand how someone can at once fight for example, freedom of expression in any of the European countries, and then refuse the same freedom to the migrants because they come from a different culture. That, for me, this is the highest level of racism.
Exactly, because in the Iranian Revolution, women went into the streets demanding for equality and human rights. And one of their famous slogans was, "It's not Western, it's not Eastern, it's universal." And they refer to human rights. So those women, they were burning all the arguments of those who believed that human rights are a Western thing, and that human rights should be limited to the context, universal human rights of the West, and that's unfortunately not true, because if we believe that every man and women are born free and equal, so this rule is for everybody who's sharing with us this small planet. And in another meaning, defending human rights, if you are really a true defender of human rights, then you are also being aware of other violations that's happening elsewhere in the world. But the fact is, those who say this argument, actually they don't follow it, because they only follow such an argument when it comes to Islam. Let's take, for example, Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch. They make huge campaigns about other problems in other parts of the world. So be it social problems or be it political problems. But the problem with religion or Islam is a taboo. So that's the problem. So they still defend other human rights, but the right to not to believe or not to believe, it creates here lots of sensitivity. And this actually helps not to protect Muslims or to let's say to protect them from being marginalized by certain populistic or right-wing groups. Actually, it helps this narrative, because the people feel like we are dealing with a group of people which they have special rights, and we don't understand why is that. And then this just the misunderstanding just grows. And in another way, when the West or people who they think of us as we are Muslims and as we are one group or one family, and they don't think of us that we are individuals. And the moment they would think of us as we are individuals, they will stop seeing Islam first and seeing the person. They will see the person, then ask what's his religion, or what does he believe, what does he think. And they believe by doing this identity politics that they are also supporting Muslims. Unfortunately, no. This is another argument to make the marginalizing of Muslims by populists easier, because instead that is saying, no, there are different people, different thoughts, there might be something, another alternative. Yes, these is minorities. It wouldn't be easy for someone to just come and say the Muslims are, including myself, because just for my name I would be supposed to be a Muslim according to this logic. So this is those are several questions which might need to be debated more seriously, and I don't know what exactly would be the way to start such a debate, but I think somehow it's starting to take place. At least now we see online, and we have people in England and in the States who campaign in a way that we should not, we should start change this narrative about how we see the world and how we see the other. And if we are really and truly believe in diversity and human rights, so we should also, the people we talk about, see them in a diverse way.
And getting back to the fact that there is the death penalty for atheists and basically non-believers, for apostates in so many Muslim countries, do you think those countries would actually, I mean, the inhabitants of those countries would welcome any kind of intervention, or what kind of intervention you think could be taken in order to change this situation?
I don't think there might not intervention. Of course, there's now physical or military intervention, because, or no direct intervention. What I meant actually, because people would say, yeah, all right, you are calling that we should do something, but what should we do? It is a tricky question, and it's the answer here is not easy. But I might have some suggestions. As I said at the beginning, if you're really wanting to help us, then start by your environment, your zone where you are. I mean, help us fighting Islamism, because the Islamist movements which we have nowadays in parts of Europe should not be seen as representatives of Muslims. This is first of all, because this should not be part of any integration programs, which is unfortunately it's the opposite which is happening. This should be other means or ways for civil society here, with not governmental, civil society, to get in touch with people from those countries, to try to provide them with support as much as possible, and because come on, we don't live anymore in a Middle Ages world. I mean, we are now very close to each other than any time ago. So there must be ways that we could, in a way, help each other, because the time which was like, if something happens in China or in, I don't know where it is in the world, so it would take us maybe, we don't know when we will hear of it and where it will affect us. But in this now globalized world, whatever happens doesn't matter where this happens, it might have an effect, direct or indirect, on us. I think sometimes I'm very fascinated by the idea of insurance companies, because an insurance company, without an insurance company, people won't take risk, and companies won't go and invest, and if they don't take risk, there will be no progress, and there will be no growth. But don't we need something, insurance companies for human rights defenders and activists, at least to ensure them that we support you, just take the risk. That's a great what you are doing, and that's wonderful. And with this risk you are taking, we are behind you. And by doing that, I mean, people will get encouraged to work, because I mean, young people who left Islam and they feel like they were in a period like idealizing the West, and it was even maybe the West, let's say the philosophy of the Enlightenment or the modernity was even influenced them in their path of searching for this self-emancipation from religion and from certain negative aspects of the culture, and then suddenly they feel, wow, that was great, thank you very much, but still we would like maybe another way of cooperation, because we might be also beneficial to you. I mean, an enlightened world where everybody is free to speak and think cannot be bad. We can only benefit from that. A world where there is dogma is a world where there will be terrorism and conflicts, and a world where there will be, of course, no peace. And then automatically we will also suffer from that. We have seen that now with the war in Syria, with the Arab Spring. We have seen that, as I said, what happens there affects us in a way or another. We want it or we don't want it. It will have also an influence on us.
So, do I understand you correctly that you believe that if the European elites change their approach and actually stop doing this segregation and actually try to integrate Muslims in Europe and try to understand them and try to support those that are liberal and try to fight for their human rights and will stop allowing these things which I consider outrageous, that you look at the group, not at the individual, and therefore you would allow, for example, a father to kill his daughter if she kissed a boy or whatever. Yeah, because that's outrageous that this kind of thing is allowed, that the religion is considered as excuse for this kind of crimes. So we are not defending the rights of that poor girl at all.
Exactly. This is an extreme example. I don't know if nowadays in Europe they still have they tolerate honor killings, or if they ever did. But in Muslim countries, definitely. But there are also other problems. I agree with you. I want Europe to stop seeing Muslims as victims. This culture of victimizing Muslims. See Muslims as independent people. See Muslims as mature people, not as children who are all the time in need of a special help and need special treatments, because that's not the fact is. See them as people with the potential, that they are smart enough to integrate and smart enough to understand that there are problems, and also see the fact that there might be difficulties. There might be people who would try to ideologize the whole thing, and in order to, get certain political points, or I don't know what. So this is the discussion. It should be go this way. Let's separate between criticism of Islam and Muslims. Let's be sure that people have the right to be anti-Islam, as anybody have the right to be anti-Christianity or anti-Judaism or anti-ideology. But people maybe they don't have the right to be anti-Muslims, because now here we are individualizing and we are attacking people as individuals, not as ideology, because an ideology or a religion, you can humiliate it, you can insult it, you can. So this is my approach, because I'm really for freedom of speech to the limits. But when I say to the limits, the higher limits possible, that we don't. The moment we start to marginalize people, the moment we start to spread hate speech, which is real hate speech, because there are also, you cannot say, for example, if I'm describing reality, if I would say, come on, 70 or 80%, I'm not sure, like in Egypt are in favor of Sharia law. This is describing reality, which means, and then I go further and I describe that. What does that mean? That means there is really a potential here for people to be radicalized, for people to be, and here, sorry, I'm talking about the people. You see, it's not hate speech. I'm describing, or if I say in Spain, the immigration rate is very high from the Maghreb countries, from North Africa, and those people, they don't have jobs. Those people are turning to be more conservative, etc., etc. And then if I make an assumption about the future and I want to see how it would look like in 10 or 20 years from now, and if I draw a dark image because I don't have anything positive in front of me right now, that's not hate speech. That's just, I'm describing facts. I'm using language to describe certain phenomena. But people usually miss up things and think just describing facts or describing certain negative things, which is, unfortunately, that's hate speech. No, we should describe the things. We should acknowledge the problem. We should get away just from the symptoms and go and seek and search where there is the problem. Yeah, of course, it needs courage. It needs that you take off your ideological glasses and see the world as it is. And then that means you are a honest person and try. Don't be someone who stops at the halfway and says, those people, we cannot do anything more with them. Kick them out or whatever. That's also a wrong approach. But if you go further and try to ask other questions and see what can be done, what is possible, then I don't think that should be considered as racist or hate speech.
It's actually funny how describing problems is considered making problems, right? As if people believe that whenever you behave as if there was no problem, there is no problem, and that may be one of the issues here in this regards, that maybe the whole topic about how to address the issue of so many Muslims living in Europe right now, which is a new culture, and people just don't know what the approach should be. So it's just easier for them to marginalize the problem, you know?
Or to deny the problem. There are both. There are those who marginalize everybody, and because they are not ready, or they don't have the time, or they don't wish to face it. And the easy thing for them is to say there is no solution. The only solution we can do is to stop or to close or to something all the time, which sounds very dramatic. And there are the other people, which is also part of the problem, and they are those who deny that there is a problem, who see everything flowery and nice, and that everybody who's trying to say or to warn that there is a problem is a racist or is an Islamophobe or is a crazy guy. And both of those guys, both of those camps are part of the problem, are the real problem. Another thing also, because to be honest with you, you cannot tackle the problem of Islamism and Islamic extremism only here in Europe, because what happens in Europe is a reflection to the sorrows and the realities of the Muslim world nowadays. The Muslim world still has a big authority also on Muslims living in Europe. Still have a religious authority, because most of the clerics and the imams and those priests, let's say, I steal the word from you, of Islam are in the Muslim world. Are there from there also. That's the big propaganda machine. So we cannot reform or we cannot have an enlightened version or a European Islam in Europe without a parallel discussion also about Islam in the Muslim world. You cannot separate between the both. There might be a potential for Muslims in the Western world to liberalize themselves easily or freely, because they are already in secular, established secularities, partly or fully, like in France. But the discussion, that's why it makes the discussion very difficult, and it makes that the way, that's the approach we need, or the solutions we may suggest or we may search for are not easy. But I might end here up with something hopeful or optimistic. I mean, when we see my story, for example, or the story of others, and this generation, as I mentioned today, I don't know if you heard that, like this Zuckerberg revolution. So those young people, and I all the time put two lines under young people, because it's a new thing. It's a new thing which might have a big impact on our societies. Those young people who are kind of globalists. I mean, when I was in Morocco, I think I felt that I am a parallel society in my society. When I came to Europe, I felt like from the first day that I'm integrated. Seriously, I didn't speak that time any German. I didn't have any friends, but I was integrated because I appreciated the freedom, and I was my search because my existence is, every individual existence is based on his own emancipation and freedom. The moment you don't have that, the moment you feel that you don't belong there. The moment you are free, the moment you belong. This question of identity, for me at least, is so goes together with the individual freedom. It's like a bird. Whenever you feel threatened or hungry, or there is no food, you fly somewhere, you immigrate somewhere, you go to another place where you are free and you have the freedom to survive in the level of thinking, and to survive on your also own physical being. So this generation now is a live generation, is very active, it's not ideologizing itself to one of the classical old camps. They are not leftists. There might be kind of new liberalists, and because their ideas, their principles are universal human rights, individual liberties, and they are not nihilistics, because they are very hopeful, and they have a life affirmation. They love life, and they are, most importantly, is that they are ready to take the risk. Like if you hear from Saudi Arabia to Morocco, Raif Badawi in Saudi Arabia, how come someone in Saudi Arabia comes to take the risk and start a debate in one of the most oppressive authoritarian theocracies in the world? That means that this generation is different. This generation is standing for something, and they believe that it's right. And we have two choices. You have to watch, keep watching, or you have to be part of this change. Because it's our progress in general in nowadays, it has been all the time a collective work. It hasn't been just a work of a certain civilization or a certain group or a certain color or a certain race. From the Islamic philosophy and culture to the Indian, to the Chinese, to the European, to Voltaire and Rousseau and the Enlightenment, they have all spoken about the human race. They didn't speak about the European race or the German or so. And those were the ideas that which proved that they could offer a kind of happiness and kind of let's say the best model that we could that could help us to live together.
So do you think that if the Europeans try to change their approach, I don't know if it's gonna happen. To be honest, I don't know if Europeans are wise enough, but I hope so. I definitely will try also to do something about it myself. Do you think it could actually lead to some kind of reformation of Islam, which we have in Europe, and it could inspire those young people really? Do you really think that they are looking at us in any way?
They might be looking at you or at us. I'm even part of the European scene. Or there might be an attempt that they will overcome you, because that history moves. And modernity is a process, and human rights are not granted, they are taken. And when you see that many people, you see the European situation right now, the questions we were like debating today, the crisis that we are now not anymore sure to define what is European. Of course, very important question, but the fact that nowadays we are asking, and we are still now like we are shocked to find out that Europe is an illusion, or Europe never existed, or it was just made up by certain theories, and then suddenly we find out no, we thought we are one, we thought we had lots of idealistic dreams, and we thought we have won these tribal differences, etc. And suddenly no, we are so much divided, we are so much different, and we have from within us coming new regressive and reactionary movements. So then I have here to worry, and I have had to ask myself, who's actually in danger? Is it the Islamic world, which still has the potential with its awakened civil society to flip the situation, and maybe, or that culture right now here, this European old lady, which is taking lots of operations in a way that's to make itself look great, but she knows that there is a lots of ugly things inside. There is populism, there is far left populism, far and right, of course, and there is very severe identity crisis. The European now, I believe, they have real identity problem.
Yes, it is true. But even if we divide again into smaller countries, we still have young people, and we still have the potential as well. And well, at least Poland, it has a little bit different history because we were not part of those Western countries that colonized half of the world. In fact, we didn't have any colonies, and we lost our independence also for over 100 of years when our lands were taken together by Germany, Austria, and Russia. Today, we come from a conservative society and very Catholic society, but the young people are just different. The young people feel they are part of the world. Some of them feel they are part of Europe, and I think we even, as the Polish people, we can redefine Europe again. I do see potential in the Eastern European countries or Central European countries to redefine Europe as not something which was just an agreement between France and UK, Italy and Germany, but something more, something new. So I wouldn't be that pessimistic when it comes to Europe. But after having said that, I would really love to see the Islamic world coming farther, because I have studied Spanish philology and I have learned a lot about the Arabic period in Spain. And I love the art from that period. I was amazed by Alhambra. I read Arabic poetry from that period. I think it's wonderful. And I often wish we see in the Islamic world this kind of free thinking movements, this kind of philosophy, this kind of art again. And hopefully science. Well, I think right now it's the science. To be honest, when I talk to my Muslim colleagues, I'm very worried about the fact that they mainly refuse a lot of scientific research, and especially, of course, evolution, the theory of evolution, because they say this is wrong, that humans have nothing to do with monkeys. I think this is the biggest issue. I think that once those young people get more educated in science, then the Arabic world really has a huge chance to change. What do you think?
Of course they will, and I wanted to say that I agree first of all with you about Poland. I wish you all the best in that, and I have seen how the Polish young people and also old people together being very active and very passionate about what they are doing. I wish you all the best, and I wish that Putinism wouldn't take place also here. And also, this is also a danger which is might be one of the, if not one of the in my opinion, the severe dangers that might concern this part here where you are of the world. And I believe also that change happens with minorities. If the minority is capable of moving things forward, it might create new possibilities and different societies. And we know that we have enough examples in the history. The mobs are dangerous because you can easily play with their feelings and you can move them right or left, depends on how you approach them. But as you said, also scientific thought and critical thought there is a need for that everywhere and in every society, and especially, as you said, in the Muslim world. And I don't know if you have. I've written that about Richard Dawkins' book. Imagine that the God Delusion got more than 10 million times downloaded in Muslim countries in Arabic, just in Arabic, without talking about Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India. I'm talking just about the Muslim Arabic word or the Arabic word. So, and I hope that if for the humanists, because I expect from the humanists not the same as I expect from the politicians, because humanists anyway we could agree, as we said, that we are all part of a collective mind or a collective work of civilization, and then that we can somehow support and help and collaborate with each other, and that's all I can say. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you. And
thank you.
Thank you very much.